Welcome. Today's story is about transformation, understanding, and the power of second chances. Join us as we explore James Sullivan's journey to change, guided by an unexpected encounter and the lessons of his father. Let's dive in. James sat still, the weight of the conversation settling on his shoulders like a heavy cloak. Each word his father had spoken reverberated through his mind, echoing in the depths of his own experiences and struggles. He could see the reflection of his own life in the story Marcus had shared. His father's pain, the battles he fought, and the prejudice he faced were mirrored in James's own struggles to reconcile his role as a police officer with the biases that lingered within him. The parallels between his father's journey and his own were undeniable. He had been so close, so dangerously close, to perpetuating the very cycle of prejudice that had nearly destroyed his father's life. How many times had he passed judgment on individuals he didn't understand, just like those who had judged his father because of the color of his skin? He had been blind to the humanity of those he served, only seeing them through the lens of suspicion and fear. That realization hit James like a lightning bolt, and for the first time he felt a deep sense of shame. Marcus, noticing the inner turmoil on James's face, spoke gently but firmly. "The badge doesn't make the officer," he said, his words hanging in the air between them. "It's the heart beneath it that matters. Every traffic stop, every interaction with a citizen. These are moments of choice. Moments where you can either build bridges or burn them. And trust me, James, you're in a position to build a lot of bridges." James's eyes met Marcus's, and for the first time, he didn't see the hardened exterior of a lawman, but a man who had walked through fire and come out the other side, stronger and more compassionate for it. Marcus's words began to unravel something deep within him, a sense of understanding he had never felt before. What he had thought was his duty, to uphold the law, to enforce the rules, was in truth much more complex. He realized it wasn't just about enforcing the law. It was about serving the community with integrity, empathy, and respect. The conversation stretched into the afternoon, flowing seamlessly from one topic to the next. They discussed the systemic issues plaguing modern policing, the unconscious biases that shape the decisions officers make, and the constant battle between fear and understanding. Every word Marcus spoke seemed to pierce through the veil of James's ignorance, unveiling a world where policing was not just about authority, but about trust. Trust between the officer and the community they served. "I want to be better," James finally admitted, his voice quiet but resolute. "I want to make you and my father proud, but where do I even start?" Marcus leaned forward, a glimmer of recognition in his eyes, mixed with hope. "You've already started, James," he said, his voice warm. "The fact that you're asking these questions, that you're open to learning, that's the first step. The hard part is living out the answers every day. It's about being honest with yourself and with the people you serve." In the months that followed, James's transformation became not just a personal journey, but a catalyst for change within his department. It wasn't easy. The old habits, the ingrained prejudices, didn't disappear overnight. But with every shift, every interaction with a citizen, James made a conscious effort to be more present, more understanding, more human. He listened when people spoke, instead of preemptively judging their motives. He approached every situation with the empathy he had learned from Marcus, seeing each person not as a threat to be neutralized, but as a fellow human being deserving of dignity and respect. His colleagues noticed the shift. Slowly but surely, the atmosphere in the department began to change. Officers who had once been quick to escalate situations now took the time to de-escalate, to listen, to understand. The ripple effect of James's transformation was felt throughout the community as well. People who had once been wary of law enforcement began to trust the officers who showed them compassion. And it wasn't just the individuals James had interacted with directly. It was the community as a whole. Trust once lost was slowly being rebuilt, one interaction at a time. But none of this would have been possible without that fateful encounter on the morning Marcus had been pulled over by Officer James Sullivan. That moment, so simple in its execution, yet so profound in its impact, had set the wheels of change into motion. If Marcus had simply flashed his badge and let the encounter end with his usual deflection of authority, things would have been different. But Marcus had chosen to see something in James that no one else had. He had seen a man struggling, a man who was better than his prejudices, and he had extended the hand of understanding. In doing so, he had changed the trajectory of James's life. James had never truly understood the significance of his father's struggles. He had only heard the stories, seen the pain in his father's eyes when he spoke of the hardships he had endured. But that morning, when he heard Marcus speak, something clicked in his mind. His father's story wasn't just a cautionary tale, it was a living, breathing testament to the possibility of change, and James had been too blind to see it until now. The meeting between Marcus and Robert Sullivan, James's father, was a turning point in the lives of all three men. When they sat down to talk, the weight of history seemed to hang in the air, but there was no bitterness, no resentment. Instead, there was a shared understanding of the hardships they had all faced. Robert had seen his own transformation in Marcus's eyes, a reminder that redemption was not only possible, but necessary. And for James, seeing his father's vulnerability, hearing him speak about the man who had saved his life, was a revelation. It wasn't just about law enforcement or the badge they wore. It was about humanity. It was about recognizing the humanity in others, regardless of their background, their appearance, or their circumstances. James's father, once so filled with anger and pain, now saw the power of healing, of transformation. He had once been a man on the edge, consumed by his own demons. But through Marcus's guidance, he had found a new path, one that allowed him to rebuild his life and reclaim his purpose. And now, that same guidance was being extended to his son. "I was so lost back then," Robert confessed, his voice thick with emotion as he clutched his coffee mug. "Angry at the world, letting my pain poison everything around me. But Marcus, you saw past all that. You saw me for who I could be, not who I was." The reunion between Marcus and Robert was a profound moment of healing. But it wasn't just the men who were healed, it was a community. James had learned something invaluable that day, not just from Marcus, but from his father as well. The lessons of redemption, of forgiveness, of seeing people for who they truly were lessons that would shape his career and his life from that day forward. As he left Robert Sullivan's home that afternoon, James felt a deep sense of peace, a peace that came from knowing that he was on the right path. He knew the journey ahead would be difficult, but he also knew that change was possible, one moment, one interaction, one decision at a time. And so, as James approached each new day, he carried with him the lessons learned from Marcus, his father, and the community they served. He understood that being a police officer wasn't just about enforcing the law. It was about building trust, fostering understanding, and most importantly, seeing the humanity in every person he encountered. His badge was no longer just a symbol of authority. It was a symbol of his commitment to change, to redemption, and to the betterment of his community. And in that simple shift in perspective, James Sullivan became a living testament to the power of second chances and the possibility of transformation.